December 1942. A black Mercedes rolls through the snow toward a small convent outside Lublin, Poland. Inside, SS Obersturmführer Klaus Richter clutches a warrant for the arrest of Sister Maria Benedicta and her nuns, accused of harboring enemies of the Reich. He has done this before. Raided churches, dragged priests from altars, sent entire convents to camps. But what happens in the next 30 minutes will haunt him for the rest of his life. Because when he kicks open that wooden door, ready to execute his orders, the nun standing there says 5 words that change everything. "You must be hungry, officer." The Franciscan convent of St. Catherine sits like a forgotten stone in the frozen Polish countryside, its walls thick and ancient, built centuries ago to withstand sieges and invaders. Now, in the 3rd winter of German occupation, these walls hide something far more dangerous than prayer. The convent is small, housing only 7 nuns, but beneath its stone floors lies a secret that could condemn them all to death. In the hidden cellar, accessible only through a concealed entrance beneath the confessional in the chapel, 23 people live in perpetual darkness. 16 are Jewish children, their identities erased, their names changed, each one carrying forged baptismal certificates prepared by Father Tomasz and his underground network. 3 are wounded Polish resistance fighters, men who ambushed a German supply convoy near Zamość and barely escaped with their lives. 2 are Soviet prisoners of war who escaped from a labor camp outside Majdanek, their bodies skeletal, their eyes haunted. 1 is a German deserter named Otto Schneider, 19 years old, who refused orders to execute civilians in Bialystok and fled into the forest, eventually finding his way to the convent through whispered rumors in the underground. And 1 is a British Royal Air Force pilot named James Crawford, shot down during a bombing run over Krakow 3 weeks ago, his left arm shattered by shrapnel, infection spreading through his body, despite Sister Zofia's desperate efforts to save him. Sister Maria Benedicta moves through the convent corridors like a shadow at dawn, her footsteps silent on the worn stone floors. She is 45 years old, though the war has aged her beyond her years. Her face is lined not with age, but with sleepless nights and the weight of impossible decisions. Her hands, once soft from a life of contemplation and prayer, are now calloused from scrubbing floors, digging graves in the frozen earth, and carrying the bodies of those who did not survive. Every morning before dawn, she descends the hidden stairs to the cellar, carrying what little food the convent can spare: thin soup made from potato peels, bread baked from flour mixed with sawdust to make it last longer, occasionally a bit of lard or a precious egg from the 3 chickens Sister Jadwiga keeps hidden in the garden shed. The children have learned not to speak. Even the youngest, like 8-year-old Rachel, knows that silence is survival. The wounded have learned not to groan no matter how much pain they endure. Every sound is a risk. Every breath is a gamble. Sister Agnieszka, 25 years old, her eyes still holding traces of the schoolteacher she was before the war, kneels beside Rachel in the darkness. The girl's real name is Rachel Steinberg. Her false papers identify her as Anna Kowalska, orphaned daughter of a Catholic family killed in a Soviet bombing raid. It is a lie built on layers of other lies, but it is the only thing keeping her alive. Rachel wears a wooden cross around her neck, and every night Sister Agnieszka teaches her Catholic prayers, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, the Apostles' Creed, prayers she must be able to recite perfectly if German soldiers come. Rachel's parents were taken during the liquidation of the Warsaw Ghetto in July. She watched from a crack in a cellar wall as her mother was shot in the street, her body left to rot in the summer heat. Her father was loaded onto a cattle car bound for Treblinka. She never saw him again. Now Rachel does not cry. Children in occupied Poland learn quickly that tears are a luxury they cannot afford. She recites her prayers in flawless Polish, crossing herself at the appropriate moments, her small hands folded in perfect imitation of devotion. Sister Agnieszka strokes her hair and whispers reassurances she does not believe. "You are safe here, child. God protects us." But Sister Agnieszka knows that God has been absent from Poland for 3 years now, and if protection comes, it will not be divine. Above in the chapel, Father Tomasz finishes a quiet morning mass. Only 5 local women attend, elderly peasants too stubborn or too faithful to abandon the church despite the danger. Everyone else has learned to stay away. Association with the clergy is dangerous. The Gestapo watches. Informants are everywhere. After the women shuffle out into the cold, Father Tomasz approaches Sister Maria in the sacristy. He is 58 years old, his hair white as the snow outside, his back bent from years of labor and beatings. But his eyes are sharp, alert, always calculating the next move in the endless chess game of survival. He speaks in low Polish, his voice barely above a whisper. The Gestapo arrested the Ursulines in Zamość yesterday morning, all 12 of them. They found a radio transmitter hidden in the bell tower. Sister Maria's face does not change, but her hands tighten around the liturgical vestments she is folding. "We have no transmitter, Father." Father Tomasz nods slowly, his expression grim. "They do not need to find anything, Sister. Suspicion is enough. A neighbor reports unusual activity. A child mentions strangers. A deserter talks under torture. One thread in the entire web unravels." He pauses, glancing toward the chapel door to ensure they are alone. "I have heard rumors. Someone in the village has been asking questions about the convent. A man I do not recognize. He may be Gestapo. He may be Abwehr. Or he may simply be a collaborator hoping for a reward." Sister Maria meets his eyes. "What do you suggest, Father?" Father Tomasz sighs heavily. "I suggest you pray, Sister. And I suggest you prepare your nuns for what may come." That night after the evening prayers, Sister Maria gathers her 6 nuns in the convent kitchen, the only room where they can speak without fear of being overheard from outside. The fire in the stove has burned down to embers, casting flickering shadows on the stone walls. Sister Agnieszka sits with her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her knuckles white. Sister Clara, the cook, wipes her flour-dusted hands on her apron, her round face drawn with worry. Sister Jadwiga, who tends the garden and keeps the convent's meager livestock alive, stares at the floor. Sister Elżbieta, elderly and nearly blind, fingers her rosary beads, her lips moving in silent prayer. Sister Zofia, the nurse, sits with her arms crossed, her jaw set in grim determination. And Sister Teresa, only 16 years old, a novice who joined the convent after her entire family was executed in a reprisal action for partisan activity, trembles visibly, tears already streaming down her young face. Sister Maria speaks plainly, her voice calm and steady, the voice of a woman who has already accepted her fate. "They are coming, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, but they are coming. When they arrive, you will not resist. You will not argue. You will not run. If they find the cellar, we will say we did not know what was hidden there, that Father Tomasz acted without our knowledge. If they take us, we go with dignity. We do not give them the satisfaction of seeing us broken." Sister Agnieszka's voice cracks, barely audible. "And the children, Sister? What happens to them?" Sister Maria looks at her for a long moment, and for the first time, her composure falters. Her eyes glisten, but she does not allow the tears to fall. "God will decide," she says quietly. But even as she speaks the words, she does not believe them. She believes that men decide, that human choices determine human fates, and that if she can remind the men who come for her that they are men and not monsters, that they were once sons and brothers and perhaps even fathers, then perhaps, just perhaps, they might hesitate. It is a fragile hope, built on nothing but desperation and faith in a humanity she has seen systematically dismantled over 3 years of occupation. But it is all she has. The Mercedes arrives at dawn 2 days later, cutting through the morning mist like a black blade. Sister Clara sees it first from the kitchen window, where she is kneading dough for the day's bread. Her hands freeze mid-motion, flour dusting her trembling fingers. The car is impossibly clean, polished to a mirror shine, incongruous against the poverty and mud and snow of the Polish countryside. 2 men step out, their movements precise and efficient. One is tall, blond, his SS uniform immaculate, every button polished, every crease sharp. SS Obersturmführer Klaus Richter, 32 years old, a lawyer from Munich before the war, a man who once argued cases in civilian courts and believed in the rule of law, now an instrument of a state that has abandoned all law except the law of power. The other man is shorter, stockier, his face harder, his eyes cold and predatory. Hauptscharführer Werner Brandt, a true believer, a man who joined the SS not out of duty but out of conviction, who genuinely believes in the racial ideology of the Reich, who enjoys his work with an enthusiasm that disturbs even some of his fellow officers. Sister Clara drops the dough and runs to find Sister Maria, her wooden clogs clattering on the stone floor. She finds her in the chapel, kneeling before the altar, her head bowed in prayer. "Sister," Clara gasps, breathless. "They are here." "The SS?" "Two of them. A car." Sister Maria rises slowly, deliberately, smoothing her black habit with steady hands. She does not hurry. Hurrying implies guilt, implies something to hide. She walks to the front door with measured steps, her rosary beads clicking softly at her waist. Behind her, Sister Agnieszka emerges from the dormitory, her face pale. Sister Zofia appears from the infirmary, wiping her hands on a cloth. The other nuns gather in the corridor, silent, waiting. The knock is not a knock. It is a hammering, 3 violent strikes that splinter the old wood slightly, the sound echoing through the convent like gunshots. Sister Maria reaches for the door handle and pulls it open before they can strike again. And there he is, Obersturmführer Klaus Richter. His hand is still raised to knock again, frozen in midair. His face is set in the expression all SS officers wear when executing their duties: cold, administrative, efficient, devoid of emotion. Behind him, Hauptscharführer Brandt's right hand rests casually on the holster of his Walter P38 pistol, his fingers drumming impatiently on the leather. Richter expects fear. In his 3 years of occupation duty, he has seen every variation of human terror: the pleading, the weeping, the bargaining, the denial, the collapse. He has dragged screaming women from their homes, shot men who tried to run, watched children cling to their mothers as they were separated and loaded onto trucks. He has learned to recognize the signs instantly: the darting eyes, the trembling hands, the shallow breathing, the stammer. But Sister Maria shows none of these. She looks at him directly, her gaze steady, and for a long moment she simply studies him. She notices the mud on his boots, evidence of a long journey. She notices the shadow of exhaustion under his eyes, the way his jaw is clenched too tightly, as if he has not slept well in weeks. She notices the slight tremor in his raised hand, so subtle that most would miss it, but she has spent years studying human suffering, and she recognizes the signs of a man at war with himself. And then she says, in fluent German, her accent impeccable, her tone calm and utterly without fear, "You must be hungry, officer, please come in." Richter blinks. It is such an unexpected response that for a moment his mind goes blank. In all his raids and all his arrests, no one has ever invited him in. No one has ever acknowledged him as a human being with human needs. He has been cursed, spat at, feared, obeyed, but never offered hospitality. Brandt steps forward aggressively, his hand moving to his pistol. "We are here on official business of the Reich. You are Sister Maria Benedicta?" Sister Maria nods once. "I am." Brandt pulls a folded document from his coat pocket, snapping it open with practiced efficiency. "You are under arrest by order of the Sicherheitspolizei for crimes against the German Reich and its interests, specifically harboring enemies of the state, providing false documentation to Jews and other undesirables, aiding members of the illegal resistance, and conspiring against German occupation authorities. You and all members of this religious institution will be transferred immediately to Lublin for interrogation and trial." He delivers the charges in a monotone, words he has recited dozens of times before. Sister Maria does not flinch. Her expression does not change. She simply nods again, as if he has informed her of the weather. "I understand your orders, officer, but you have traveled far in the cold and it is early. I have fresh bread and hot tea. You may search the convent while you eat. It will not take long. We have nothing to hide." It is a lie. A massive, desperate, audacious lie. Beneath their feet, 23 people are holding their breath in darkness, praying that the floorboards do not creak, that the British pilot does not cry out in his fever, that little Rachel does not cough. But Sister Maria delivers the lie with such absolute simplicity, such mundane hospitality, such complete absence of guile, that for a moment Richter hesitates. Brandt sneers, his lip curling in contempt. "We are not here for tea and pleasantries, sister. We are here to execute the will of the Reich. Step aside." But Richter raises his left hand, a small gesture that stops Brandt mid-sentence. "Wait." He looks at Sister Maria again, searching her face for deception, for the crack in the facade. There is something in her expression, not defiance which he could punish and not fear which he could exploit. It is acceptance. Pure, complete acceptance, as if she has already made peace with whatever comes next, as if she has surrendered not to him, but to something larger than both of them. It unsettles him deeply. He has seen people beg for their lives, fight like cornered animals, collapse into weeping heaps. But this calm, this serene acknowledgement of fate, is something new. It reminds him uncomfortably of his mother, who faced her cancer diagnosis with the same quiet dignity, who refused to rage or weep, who simply accepted and prepared. He pushes the memory away, but it lingers. He says, almost against his own will, his voice softer than he intended, 5 minutes, we will eat, then we search. Sister Maria steps aside, opening the door fully. Richter and Brandt enter, their boots loud on the stone floor. The convent is sparse, almost austere. Whitewashed stone walls unadorned except for simple wooden crucifixes. The floors are swept clean but worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. The air smells of candle wax, bread, and the faint mustiness of old stone. It is cold inside, barely warmer than outside. There is no luxury here, no hidden wealth, nothing to suggest conspiracy or subterfuge, just poverty and prayer. Sister Clara has already set the table in the small dining room adjacent to the kitchen. 2 places, 2 tin plates, 2 chipped ceramic cups steaming with weak tea. A loaf of dark rye bread, still warm from the oven, sits on a wooden cutting board. Beside it, a small dish of butter, no more than a tablespoon, precious as gold in wartime Poland. Sister Clara has used their entire week's ration. Richter and Brandt sit. Brandt eats quickly, mechanically, tearing at the bread with his teeth, gulping the tea without tasting it. But Richter eats slowly, methodically. He cuts the bread with the small knife provided, spreads the butter carefully. He cannot remember the last time someone offered him food without fear or calculation, without trying to curry favor or bribe him. The bread is coarse, heavy, mixed with inferior flour and probably sawdust, but it is fresh and warm. The tea is weak, barely colored, but it is hot. Sister Maria stands near the doorway, her hands folded in front of her, her posture relaxed. She does not hover. She does not speak. She simply waits, patient as stone. Brandt finishes first, pushing his plate away with a clatter. Enough of this charade. We have work to do. Richter nods, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. They stand. Sister Maria gestures toward the corridor. I will show you the convent. We have nothing to hide. She leads them through each room with the calm efficiency of a museum guide. The chapel, with its simple altar and rows of worn wooden pews. The dormitory, 7 narrow beds with thin blankets, a small table with a basin for washing. The kitchen, where Sister Clara stands frozen, her hands still dusted with flour. The infirmary, 3 empty cots, shelves with a few bottles of iodine and bandages. The garden shed, tools hanging neatly on the wall, 3 chickens clucking nervously in a makeshift coop. The storage room, sacks of grain, jars of preserved vegetables, all carefully inventoried and labeled. Everything is clean, orderly, desperately poor. There are no signs of hidden wealth, no evidence of black market trading, no weapons, no radio equipment. Brandt grows increasingly frustrated with each empty room. His face reddens. He kicks at walls, listening for hollow spaces. He overturns sacks of grain, scattering precious food across the floor. He opens every jar, sniffs every container, searching for contraband. Nothing. Finally, he turns to Sister Maria, his voice sharp with anger. Where is your cellar? Every building has a cellar. Sister Maria nods calmly. Through the kitchen. We store potatoes and winter preserves there. The stairs are steep. Please be careful. She leads them back to the kitchen, where a narrow wooden door stands beside the stove. She opens it, revealing stone steps descending into darkness. Brandt goes first, pulling a flashlight from his belt. Richter follows. The cellar is small, perhaps 4 meters by 5. The ceiling low, the air damp and cold. Wooden shelves line the walls, holding jars of pickled cabbage, beets, cucumbers. Burlap sacks of potatoes and turnips are stacked in the corner. 3 wooden barrels contain what appears to be salted pork. The floor is uneven stone laid centuries ago. Brandt moves systematically, his flashlight beam sweeping every surface. He taps the walls with his knuckles, listening for hollow spaces. Nothing. He kicks at the potato sack, sending several rolling across the floor. Nothing. He examines the barrels, opening each one, thrusting his hand into the brine. Nothing. Richter kneels, running his hand over the stone floor, feeling for seams, for trapdoors, for any irregularity. In the corner, beneath a small wooden altar holding a statue of the Virgin Mary, there is a worn rug. He pulls it aside. Solid stone beneath. No cracks, no hinges, no evidence of disturbance. What Richter does not know, what he cannot know, is that the real entrance to the hidden cellar is not here. It is in the chapel, beneath the confessional booth. The confessional is built against the wall, heavy and ancient. Behind it, accessible only by pressing a specific sequence of stones in the wall, 3 stones in a pattern known only to Sister Maria and Father Tomasz, a narrow panel slides aside, revealing stairs that descend into a much larger space, a medieval crypt that predates the current convent by 200 years. It is there, in that forgotten darkness, that 23 people are currently holding their breath, praying in a dozen different languages that the SS officers will not find them. Brandt emerges from the cellar, his face flushed with frustration and rage. He turns on Sister Maria, stepping close, invading her space, his face inches from hers. "Someone informed on you, sister. A reliable source. We have testimony that you are hiding Jews, that you are providing false papers, that you are sheltering enemies of the Reich. Where are they?" Sister Maria meets his eyes without flinching, without stepping back. Her voice remains calm, almost gentle. "Then your source is mistaken, officer. Or perhaps they are lying to you, hoping for a reward they do not deserve. We are a house of prayer. We have no Jews. We have no resistance fighters. We have no enemies of the Reich. We have only God and our service to Him. You have searched. You have found nothing, because there is nothing to find." Brandt's hand moves to his pistol. For a moment, Richter thinks he might actually shoot her, right here, right now, out of sheer frustration. But Richter steps forward, placing himself between them. "Hauptscharführer, control yourself." Brandt glares at him but steps back, his hand falling away from his weapon. Richter turns to Sister Maria. He studies her face again, searching for the telltale signs of deception he has been trained to recognize. The micro-expressions, the involuntary movements, the physiological responses that betray a lie. He sees none of it. Her pupils are steady. Her breathing is even. Her hands are relaxed. Either she is telling the truth, or she has achieved a level of self-control that borders on superhuman, or, and this thought disturbs him more than he wants to admit, she has accepted death so completely that fear no longer has any power over her, that she has moved beyond the reach of threats and violence into some realm of spiritual detachment he cannot comprehend. Richter makes a decision. We search again. Every room, every floorboard, every stone. For the next 2 hours, they tear the convent apart. They overturn beds, pull up rugs, tap every wall, examine every crucifix for hidden compartments. They search the chapel, moving pews, examining the altar, even climbing into the small bell tower to check for hidden spaces. Brandt is thorough to the point of obsession, driven by the certainty that they are missing something, that the evidence is here, hidden just beyond their reach. But they find nothing. No false walls, no hidden rooms, no trapdoors. The convent yields no secrets. In the hidden crypt beneath the chapel, Sister Sophia has given the children drops of valerian root, a mild sedative, to keep them calm and silent. Rachel sleeps fitfully, her small body curled against Sister Agnieszka, who descended earlier to comfort the children. The British pilot, James Crawford, is delirious with fever, his body burning, his mind wandering through memories of home, of his wife in London, of missions flown and friends lost. Sister Sophia keeps a cloth pressed over his mouth, muffling his incoherent murmurs. One word in English, one cry of pain, and they are all dead. The resistance fighters sit with their backs against the stone wall, their weapons within reach, prepared to fight if discovered, knowing they will not survive but determined to take some Germans with them. Otto Schneider, the German deserter, prays silently in his native tongue, asking forgiveness for the things he has done, for the things he failed to do, for the cowardice and complicity that brought him here. The Soviet POWs stare into the darkness with hollow eyes, beyond fear, beyond hope, simply existing in the eternal present of survival. Above, Richter stands once more in the chapel, looking up at the large wooden crucifix that dominates the space. Christ hangs there, suffering, dying, abandoned by God and man. Richter is not a religious man. He stopped believing in God somewhere between his university studies of Nietzsche and his first assignment in occupied Poland, where he witnessed atrocities that no benevolent deity could permit. But he remembers his mother, devout and faithful, who took him to church every Sunday in Munich, who taught him the commandments, who told him that cruelty was a sin and compassion a virtue. He wonders what she would think of him now, if she could see him in this uniform, executing these orders. She died in 1940, before he was sent east. Perhaps that was a mercy. Sister Agnieszka enters the chapel, carrying a basket of laundry she has been pretending to fold in the dormitory. She freezes when she sees the two SS officers. Her basket slips from her hands, linen spilling across the floor. Richter turns, noticing her immediately. Finally, he thinks. A crack. A sign of fear. Proof that something is wrong. He approaches her slowly, deliberately. "What is your name, sister?" She stammers, her voice barely audible. "Sister Agnieszka, sir." He takes another step closer, invading her space, using his physical presence to intimidate. "You are afraid?" She nods, tears forming in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. "Yes, sir. I am afraid." He leans in, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Why are you afraid, Sister Agnieszka? What are you hiding?" She looks up at him, and in her eyes he sees genuine terror, the kind that cannot be faked. But her words, when they come, are simple and utterly honest. "I am afraid because you are SS, sir, because you have the power to kill us, because I do not want to die. I am 25 years old. I want to live. I am afraid because any sane person would be afraid of you. It is the truth, raw, unadorned. Not the fear of being caught in a lie, but the existential fear of violence, of arbitrary death, of power unchecked." Richter exhales slowly, something in his chest tightening. He steps back. Brandt is watching him from across the chapel, waiting for orders, his expression expectant. Richter looks back at Sister Maria, who has entered silently and stands now near the altar, her hands folded, her face serene. She is not pleading. She is not bargaining. She is simply watching him, waiting to see what kind of man he will choose to be. Richter makes his decision. He turns to Brandt, his voice flat and official. "There is nothing here, Hauptscharführer. The informant was wrong." Brandt stares at him, incredulous. "Sir, the orders clearly state—" Richter cuts him off, his voice hardening into the tone of command. "The orders state that we are to arrest those harboring enemies of the Reich. We have conducted a thorough search. We have found no enemies. We have found nuns, potatoes, and prayer books. I will not waste the Reich's resources and transportation capacity on arresting old women for crimes they have not committed based on unreliable intelligence. Is that clear?" Brandt's face reddens with barely controlled rage. "Sir, I must protest. The source was considered reliable. We should at minimum take them for interrogation. Gestapo methods will—" Richter steps close to Brandt, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Are you questioning my judgment, Hauptscharführer? Are you suggesting that I do not know how to execute my duties?" Brandt hesitates, recognizing the trap. To question a superior officer is insubordination. "No, sir, but I will be filing a report." Richter's smile is cold. "You will file the report I dictate, Hauptscharführer. We investigated based on intelligence received. We found no evidence of illegal activity. The convent is clean. The informant was either mistaken or deliberately provided false information. Recommend investigation of informant's motives. Do you understand?" Brandt's jaw clenches, but he salutes stiffly. "Jawohl, Obersturmführer." They leave. Sister Maria walks them to the door, her composure perfect. Richter pauses on the threshold, turning back to look at her one final time. He wants to say something. He does not know what. A warning that they might return? An apology for the invasion? A confession that he knows she is lying and he is choosing to let her lie? Instead, he simply holds her gaze for a long moment. Sister Maria nods, a small gesture of acknowledgement. Something passes between them unspoken, an understanding that transcends the roles they are forced to play. Then Richter turns and walks to the car. Brandt follows, slamming the passenger door with unnecessary force. The Mercedes engine roars to life. Sister Maria stands in the doorway watching as the black car rolls away through the snow, disappearing into the morning mist. She stands there for 5 full minutes after it vanishes, making certain it is not returning, that this is not a trick, that they are truly gone. Only then does she close the door. Her hand trembles as she turns the lock. She walks 3 steps into the convent, and her knees buckle. Sister Agnieszka, who has been watching from the corridor, rushes forward and catches her before she falls. For the first time in 2 years, Sister Maria weeps, great racking sobs that shake her entire body, all the fear and tension and impossible weight of responsibility pouring out of her in a flood. Sister Agnieszka holds her, stroking her hair, murmuring comfort, and she too begins to cry, and soon all the nuns are gathered around them, weeping together, releasing the terror they have held inside for so long. That night, under cover of darkness, Father Tomasz arrives with a truck disguised as a delivery vehicle for a local farm. It is time to evacuate. The risk is too great now. The SS may return. The informant, whoever they are, may provide more information. The children must be moved to another safe house, this one 30 miles away, operated by a different religious order. It takes 3 trips to move everyone. Rachel, little Anna Kowalska, clutches Sister Agnieszka's hand as she is lifted into the back of the truck, hidden beneath sacks of grain and burlap tarps. "Will I see you again, sister?" Rachel's voice is small, frightened. Sister Agnieszka kisses her forehead, tasting salt and dirt and the bitter residue of fear. "In this life or the next, child, I promise. God will keep you safe." Rachel nods, wanting to believe. Sister Agnieszka watches as the truck rolls away into the night, carrying the children to an uncertain future, and she prays with an intensity she has not felt since childhood, prays that the lie she just told will somehow become truth. The convent survives the war. Over the next 2.5 years, Sister Maria continues her work, more carefully now in smaller numbers, with better precautions. She saves 47 more people before the Soviet liberation of Lublin in July 1944. She never speaks of the SS officer who let them live, but every night in her private prayers she prays for him by name, Klaus Richter. She prays that whatever darkness he carries, whatever sins weigh on his soul, he will find peace. She prays that the small mercy he showed will be counted in his favor when he faces whatever judgment awaits beyond death. Klaus Richter is killed on August 3, 1944, during the Soviet offensive that finally pushes the Germans out of eastern Poland. His body is found in a destroyed command post outside Lublin, half buried in rubble. In his breast pocket, soldiers find a letter addressed to his mother, written but never sent, because his mother has been dead for 4 years. The letter contains only one line written in a shaky hand: "I am not the man I thought I would become. Forgive me." The letter is thrown away with other German documents. No one reads it. No one cares. Hauptscharführer Werner Brandt is captured by the Red Army during the same offensive. He is identified as SS, tried in a Soviet military tribunal for war crimes, and executed by firing squad in October 1945. He dies cursing and defiant, believing to the end in the righteousness of his cause. Rachel Steinberg survives. She lives in the second safe house for 8 months before being moved again. She survives the war, one of the few Jewish children from the Warsaw Ghetto to do so. In 1948, at the age of 14, she emigrates to the newly formed State of Israel. She never forgets the nuns who saved her. In 1953, she names her first daughter Maria, after the woman who stood in a doorway and faced down the SS with nothing but bread and tea and impossible courage. In 1985, she testifies at Yad Vashem, helping to secure recognition for Sister Maria Benedicta and the nuns of St. Catherine's Convent as righteous among the nations. Sister Maria, who died in 1967, never knew of this honor, but perhaps she would have smiled, knowing that the children she saved remembered that the risk and fear and sleepless nights were not for nothing. History does not record most acts of mercy. It records the camps, the massacres, the machinery of death, the 6 million murdered, the millions more enslaved and starved and worked to death. But in the cracks of that machinery, in the small spaces between orders and execution, some people chose differently, not because they were saints, not because they were heroes, but because they were human, and they remembered, if only for a moment, what it meant to be human. Sister Maria Benedicta was not unique. Across occupied Europe, thousands of people made similar choices. Priests and nuns and ordinary families who hid Jews and resistance fighters and deserters, who risked everything for strangers, who chose compassion over survival. Most of them were never recognized. Most of them died in obscurity, but their choices mattered. Every life saved was a universe preserved. Every act of mercy was a small rebellion against the machinery of hate. And sometimes, just sometimes, even the men who served that machinery remembered that they were men, and they hesitated, and in that hesitation, lives were saved. Klaus Richter was not a hero. He was a man who committed terrible acts in service of a terrible regime. But on one cold morning in December 1942, he made a different choice. And because of that choice, 23 people lived who otherwise would have died. History may not record his name, but Rachel Steinberg remembered, and she told her daughter Maria, and Maria told her children, and perhaps that is enough. Perhaps that is how mercy survives, passed down through generations, a small light in the darkness, a reminder that even in the worst of times, even in the heart of evil, humanity persists. If this story moved you, subscribe to our channel for more untold stories of courage and resistance from World War II. Leave a comment telling us what you would have done in Sister Maria's place. Would you have had the courage to open that door, to offer bread to your enemy, to gamble everything on the hope that compassion might survive in the heart of a man trained to kill? And remember, history is not just what happened. It is what we choose to remember, what we choose to honor, what we choose to pass on. Thank you for watching.